Arsenal absolutely annihilate Sheffield United 5-0 in a very exciting game for Arsenal fans. Eddie Nketiah comes up with a hat trick, and Arsenal, I mean, this is exactly what you want to see in a game that you feel like you should be winning. I said it before the game that this is the type of game where you expect Arsenal to score 4 goals, 3, 4, 5 goals. And we came up with that today. I don't think Sheffield United had a shot on goal. They were completely nullified. Not like they have a lot going on for them in that regard, but they were completely nullified. The team was very, I think, so good in terms of winning the ball back and not encouraging the opposition that they just slowly shrunk into their shell. And Arsenal, once they got the first goal, the game was pretty much over. And we started off with a team of Emile Smith-Rowe in it, Kai Havertz in midfield, Eddie Nketiah up top, Kiwior at the back, and it was like nothing changed. And I just want to remind you guys of the days where Arsenal used to not be able to rotate even one player. If we were going to play against anybody in the Premier League, we had to play our first 11. We just went into a game against Sheffield United, albeit a very terrible team, and beat them 5-0 without our captain starting the game, without Gabrielle at the back. We are making strides. Now, beating Sheffield for me is not anything really to like get overly excited about, if that makes sense, because we should be beating them. But being able to rotate that much ahead of West Ham, which will probably go a little bit stronger, and Newcastle at the weekend, this is what the big teams do. This is what serious sides do. They can rotate and not drop off at all. We saw so many players came in. Fabio Vieira comes in, Trossard comes in, Tomiyasu gets his first goal, and it's like there's no drop off. And so Arsenal, although it's hard to see sometimes, are making strides forward. And you can see it in games like today, where we're supposed to be beating a side, but we make easy work of it. We don't encourage them at all. We beat them 5-0, beat them off of the park, and can do it with a rotated lineup. Well done, Arsenal. Well done. You guys, make sure you guys are liking the video and subscribing to the channel, because we have loads to talk about. And we're going to get into the Eddie Nketiah stuff, because I do feel like that is the conversation of today. Eddie comes in, and before this game, he wasn't in like every single preferred lineup that I saw did not include Eddie Nketiah. It didn't. I think a lot of people were disappointed off of the back of his cameo appearance against Sevilla. Gabriel Jesus gets injured. People have Trossard through the middle. That's who I had. People have Havertz through the middle. No Eddie. Eddie comes out there and scores 3 goals, you guys. 3. I mean, when's the last time an Arsenal player has gotten a hat trick in the Premier League? It has to have been like Aubameyang or somebody like that. That is a response by somebody who is tired of being slandered. Now, I don't care whether or not Sheffield are a bad team, because again, if it was just about Sheffield being a bad team, everybody would get a hat trick against them. And they've held, I think, every single top 6 team that they've played, they've held them to a 2-1 scoreline. So it's not just about it being Sheffield. Hat tricks are hard to get. And so Eddie Nketiah deserves so much credit for today, because no one wanted him in the team. He had a poor showing against Sevilla, and he comes out there and leads us to a victory that we need. Like, it's Sheffield, and we should win, and we probably win no matter what. But his goals were what allowed the likes of Vieira to come on, Trossard to get some minutes, Tomiyasu to come on. It allowed us to breathe, get that space in between us and Sheffield, and just kind of have an easy day out. So I do want to spend some time on Eddie, because he's gotten a lot of criticism. Like, he's not somebody that I particularly love that much. Like, he's not somebody that I rate very highly. But in the end of the day, when somebody shows you like and is like, you know what, I'm stepping up in this moment, like, you have to give them credit where credit is due. And so there'll be no Eddie slander today, okay? Eddie absolutely showed up when we needed him to. Gabriel Jesus sitting in the stands. We're going to need Eddie. So we're going to need him. If he's going to be playing, he needs to score goals. So opposition aside, you just don't see hat tricks that often. So when they get them, you have to applaud them. So well done for Eddie. Well done for Eddie. And so we're going to get into the nitty gritty. So make sure you guys are liking the video, subscribing to the channel. I am working on getting Femi on. If you guys know, if you guys have been on the channel, Femi is a huge backer of Eddie Nketiah. Not in terms of he's the best striker in the world, but he's a good number 2 striker. And so he will be eating for a whole week off of the back of this. And so I'm working on getting him on the show because I think he deserves to collect. You know, when your player that you backed when the fire was hot, you know, when they come up big, you get your moment. And so hopefully we can get him on the channel to have his moment here. Let's see what you guys are saying. DJ Polar says, my gripe with Eddie is that he can do this, then drops a 2 out of 10. Keenan says, it's Sheffield. It doesn't matter. Still want him gone. Eugene says, no, we can't. We can build from this game. Rotation is a must this season. If we can get better this season, we didn't miss the injuries Eddie Day today. Ashoke says, Eddie Nketiah is your man of the match since he scored the hat trick today. Let me actually do that right now and set up a poll for man of the match. It doesn't even matter because I know it's going to be him anyway, but we'll set it up anyways just so he can win it. But yeah, for people that are saying, you know, I don't care, I want Eddie gone, it doesn't really change the fact that he deserves credit for today. And I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why. Because at this stage, I feel very similarly about Eddie as I do about Jorginho. Because Jorginho is somebody that nobody really likes. Nobody really likes Jorginho. He's not somebody that, you know, people really get behind. And so why is Jorginho in the team? Why is Jorginho playing so many minutes? Jorginho is playing so many minutes because we decided to buy him instead of buying somebody else, a player that doesn't have legs, a player that's probably not good enough for us in terms of like a backup CDM. But the main reason why he's there is because the main guy that plays in that position is never available. And so if Gabriel Jesus continues not to be available and the club continue not to upgrade upon Eddie Nketiah, I can't hate on him for being an average player, can I? At some stage, it's on the club to move on from a player that we don't feel like is good enough or is holding us back. So when Eddie does what he does best, which is score goals, we have to give him credit where credit is due. When Jorginho plays well against Brentford, you give him credit where credit is due. You may still not want them there, but it's not their fault. You know, you got to pass the blame on to somebody else. Eddie is here because Eddie wants to play for Arsenal and he has a contract. And so that's not on Eddie. So when Eddie plays well, you give Eddie credit. You know, and I'm going to give Eddie credit where credit is due because it's not his fault that he's here. If I'm mad about him being here, I'm directing that towards the manager, recruitment, and all of that because we've had multiple opportunities to upgrade upon him and we haven't done so. So is that on Eddie? No, it's not. You know, so there you go. Mass says, fantastic result given the injuries. It's great to give ESR a game and Eddie and Nketiah's hat trick will give him a lot of confidence. Newcastle next big challenge. I hope we don't lose our unbeaten record there. We're still unbeaten. I forgot about that. Nostradamus says joint fifth top goal scorer in the league now. Fair enough to Eddie. I think he has like what 5 goals this season in the Premier League. That's not bad. Aman says, yeah, Eddie deserves his flowers today. Exactly. Like, it's just a day to just say, you know what, the guy did what he was supposed to do. And, you know, what can you do but ask a striker to strike? He did it. So it is what it is. Ivy says, I wish Eddie can be consistent like this every game. The reason why he can't be consistent like this every single game is because he's not that guy. Do you know what I mean? And so he has his flaws and his, you know, his shortcomings. He will come up with games like this here and there, like the Manchester United game or the Fulham game. But he's being asked now to be almost like a starting striker. And so is the issue that Eddie is not good enough or that we don't have suitable cover for Gabriel Jesus? It has to be more about, for me, about we haven't filled that position properly than Eddie and his quality, because we've known Eddie's quality for years. Zich says, congrats to Eddie. He's clinical. He got his first Premier League hat trick and he won the penalty. That is what, 5 or 6 goals in 9 games or something like that. Good for him. Today was his day. Did he win the penalty? Because I thought Fabio Vieira won the penalty. Steve Barrow says, missing Martin Odegaard, man of the match, best performance ever. Aman says, Eddie's defense league will be feasting and starving. It goes, and that's the thing. It's like, that's why you can't go too far. Like, Eddie definitely deserves his flowers today because he had a fantastic performance, but the like 4 or 5 performances before that, he wasn't very good. So, it's important, I think, not to go so far, but Eddie is going to give you this against the lower level opposition, I think. I think where he struggles is coming off of the bench in games sometimes and starting against better sides. That's where I think he struggles a little bit. So, that's not on him to me. That's not on him at all. John says he can't do this every game because Arsenal don't play the worst team in the league every game. Every game, exactly. So, nevertheless, like, I just don't think there's a reason to turn it into a negative. I know that the thing is sometimes you just have to hold your hands up and just say, you know what, Eddie did the job. And so trying to make it into a negative, I feel like is a little bit like, you know, we won, we're happy, it is what it is. Who cares? Another thing that I wanted to point out that kind of didn't stress me out, but it annoyed me a little bit is, especially in the first half, the lack of involvement from Kai Havertz and Emil Smith Rowe. I think Emil Smith Rowe actually grew into the game a lot more into the second half, which I can't wait to see the comp from him, because I think I know he had an assist and had some really decent touches and tried to get more involved. But what I'm not particularly loving right now with Arsenal is that I feel like our attacking mids aren't doing attacking mid stuff, and it's our wingers are creating for our attacking mids. But I kind of feel like it should be the opposite. I felt like in the first half, Zinchenko was doing a lot of midfielding, which I get that that's kind of like his thing. He is like a midfielder. I get that. But some of the positions that he was popping into, running off of the back line, overlapping Martinelli, finding himself in between the lines. I was like, I want to see Emil there. I want to see Kai there. I want to see them doing the creative stuff. And I found it to be a little bit like, I think tactically that's what Arteta wants. He wants Zinchenko doing so much, and he wants the creative midfielders kind of doing a selfless role in midfield, and Saka and Martinelli to have a lot of responsibility to create for other people and also score goals. This goes back to my feeling around certain players are doing 4 or 5 roles when we could actually spread the responsibilities across more players and not be found out. Because basically, if you can figure out a way to get Zinchenko out of the game, you've figured out a way to get Arsenal out of the game, right? And so I was a little bit disappointed after seeing the team sheet with Kai Havertz and Emil Smith Rowe on it, that I didn't necessarily feel like from an attacking standpoint, they had enough of an impact, even though Emil, I think, had a good game on his own. They just, I need my eights to be doing the 8 things. I need my, wingers to be created for, if that makes sense, and not be the main creators. So that's how I see the game. Maybe it's just a preference thing, but I'm wondering if you guys saw the same thing, because before we broke through, I was very much so at halftime being like, I want to see a little bit more from Emil and Kai, and I think our 8s in general just don't do enough. And so you have players like Zinchenko and Declan doing a lot of creative midfieldy things. And Zinchenko is a good player, and Rice is obviously a fantastic player. His assist for Eddie's first goal is fantastic. But wouldn't you want Emil and Kai, the more creative number 10 type players, doing those roles? I don't know. You guys let me know. So yeah, Francis saying, just we won 5-0 for F's sake, lighten up. The funny thing about what you're saying is, like, you may have missed did you miss the first 15 minutes? I definitely am not trying to bring the mood down. I'm just saying that, like, that's something that I noticed, and, like, so I'm not lightened up. So I don't know. Just because we won a game against Sheffield doesn't mean we're not going to talk about performances that were that's the whole point of player ratings. I gave Eddie all of his flowers. I said that we made progress. You must have missed the first 15 minutes of whatever. We're going to talk about the entirety of things, especially because Sheffield is not a great team. So it's not like there's not things that we can improve upon. You missed the first 10 minutes because I definitely gave us our flowers. Like, I'm not bringing things down, you know? If I am, let me know, but like, be fucking for real. Like, it's Sheffield. We're going to talk about things that didn't necessarily go right. What went right was Eddie, and I gave him so many flowers at the top of the show. No, sorry. DJ Polar says you're spot on. Felt the same way about Kai. Not so much ESR. You're right. He grew into the game because more active in the second half. Exactly. Like, that is something that I feel like if you guys watch my show with James, we were trying to figure out what's going on with the attack and like why we don't seem like maybe we're as fluid. There's just not enough going through our attacking mids. That's what I think. And I think our attack is going through players that is a suboptimal place. You know what I mean? And so that's something that really stood out to me because I wanted Kai and Emil Smith Rowe to almost have like breakout games, you know, where they got on the ball, they created big chances and things like that. Emil got his assist, but I still kind of felt like, it's very, very interesting. Dale says that's her job to talk big picture. Exactly. Like, come on. Salvatore says you literally wanted your out of form captain to start. I did want Odegaard to start. I was okay with him being dropped. Again, if you guys have actually watched my shows, like, and actually took it in and not just listened, like, I don't know, with earmuffs on your ears, I said that Odegaard, there's one of two ways to get him back into form. It's play him into form, continue to play him, or drop him. And so I was open to both. I actually, when I saw the team sheet, I was happy to see Emil Smith Rowe and Kai there because Odegaard gets a little bit of a break and both of them get an opportunity to really like impose themselves and show what they can offer, because this is the only time that they're going to get it. You know, we treated this Sheffield game like a cup game, which is exactly how we should, because West Ham away is going to be a much harder proposition than Sheffield at home. So today was not like Odegaard's finished, because Odegaard's probably going to play against West Ham and Newcastle. So yeah, Odegaard, of course I want him to start. But am I mad that Kai Havertz and ESR got a game? No. And did I not advocate for them to come into the team? No. Like, you guys don't listen. Like, you guys don't listen, y'all. Like, be for real. So yeah, I'm okay with exactly what happened. I don't necessarily feel like either one of Emil Smith Rowe or Kai Havertz had the type of game, though, to say like, oh, they just completely take Odegaard out of their spot. Again, they were pretty uninvolved for a lot of the game in terms of the creative standpoint. Emil was much better, in my opinion, than Kai, but you know, it is what it is. You know, to me, Odegaard is a superior player to both. So he comes back, he's going to come back into the side, and neither one of them really said, you know what, Odegaard, you need to sit. So whatever. Aman says all of our creativity was coming from Zinni and Rice and the wingers. The 2 8s didn't do enough, in my opinion. Exactly. That's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I don't know why this is feeling like it's not getting across. Like, I'm not saying that we played terribly. Actually, I thought we played really good. But it's just something like when we're talking about what's going on with the attack, that's it. Like, I feel like nothing is really going through the 8s the way that they do on others in other teams. Like, Rice is doing a lot of creating. By the way, Declan Rice is a phenomenal player. That's our defensive midfielder, and he's getting goals and assists every single game. That is crazy. I did not expect Declan Rice to get that much. He got another assist today, and it was a fantastic one. So if that's just the way that we play, our DM and our left back are our most creative players, and our creative midfielders are worker bees. Like, that's how the tactics are set up. Like, it's not even, I don't even think it's a Kai or a Meal problem. I think it's a tactical setup thing, which is crazy to me. Also, and like, exactly, I don't blame Havertz. I don't blame him either. He's not being asked to do those things. Hugo says, I agree. That's why when ESR was subbed off, he looked disappointed. I mean, in a game where when you win 5-0 and you're playing against the worst team in the league and you're at home and you get a start, you want to cement that opportunity with end product, because as poor as Odegaard has been, he still has gotten end product. So in order to really, I think, solidify yourself, that left eight is open as far as I'm concerned anyway. I think it has to come with something tangible, goal and assist. He got in good positions, ESR, like he did. He got into good positions and he just didn't have like that final touch. He got an assist, which is great, but he obviously expects more from himself. But if he's not allowed to get into the positions that get the most out of him, we know ESR is best in between the lines and in the pockets. Then what can he do? What can he do? I don't blame either one of them. I really don't. Arsenal says, Hail NKETIAH. He had an amazing game. Like, fair enough for him. Let's see. I'm working without my contacts, so like I'm trying to see. So there you go. BroPro says Rice can do everything. Also, we're gonna speak about Kiwior a little bit, but I've been like begging for him to get some playing time, and I'm so glad he did today. Gabriel for me was not dropped. He was rotated. I think we want to make everything so effing dramatic all the time. Gabriel was playing out of his skin over the last couple of games, but he's also traveled twice to South America. Gabriel, and played a lot of minutes for Brazil. So for him to be so consistent and not be the player that's dropped off after international break, I think speaks to his fitness levels. But I'm so glad that Arteta took the opportunity to give him some rest ahead of two more difficult games. And Kiwior got some minutes, and I think he made a good account of himself. I know that he didn't have much to do from a defensive standpoint, but on the ball, I thought he looked really good. So fair enough. Fair enough for Kiwior and taking the opportunity. You only get, if you only get the game against Sheffield, there's only so much you can do as a defender. You're not going to be tested, but don't chuck the ball into the back of your net. Don't look weird on the ball. Don't put us in difficult situations. He didn't do any of that. I thought Kiwior had a good game today. So I'm happy to see that Gabriel got some rest, much needed rest, and Kiwior can step in to a position that, I don't think he's looked the best at left back, but at center back, he looked good. So I'm happy for him as well. Nostradamus says Rice will get the ball more when he literally doubled Havertz on successful passes. Wait, Rice will get on the ball more, but he literally doubled Havertz on successful passes, 68 to 34, 24 from ESR. They just weren't on the ball as much as, and maybe that's the deep block effect. Maybe the deep block effect is that, because we're so trying to break down these 11 men behind the ball, that inevitably your center backs and your DM and your other pivot player in Zinchenko is going to be on the ball a lot. But I still feel like they should have been more involved. And quite frankly, they were just busy bees in there. They were holding their off the ball shape. They were laying the ball off. Like they really weren't given the creative license to make things happen. And we got the ball off wide. And Martinelli and Saka are still our biggest creators. They're creating for Havertz and ESR, where I think in a lot of other teams, it would be the opposite, which is really interesting. Like this is the first time that I feel like I really saw it. How we play with our eights this season is not as, where they're doing a lot of the creating, which I think is strange. BroPro says, I feel bad for ESR. Not every number 10 has transformed into a successful number 8. Hugo says, how much will Odegaard improve when Timber is back inverting from the right side? I think Odegaard will do a lot better when, Partey is fit. I think that's a big part of it. But Odegaard also just, I think, needs a rest and like just a moment to like get his shit together. Like this is a player that has massive responsibility for Arsenal and his country is really suffering like from a footballing standpoint. He just hasn't really been himself. So I think it's more than just tactically what you can do to get the most out of Odegaard. Arteta has to get that right. But also Odegaard has to figure out a way to impose himself in games. Like we got to the point where Odegaard wasn't even taking good touches. So if he's not getting the ball enough, that's one thing. Or he's not getting the ball in places that that are dangerous, that's different. But when you're getting the ball and you're getting pushed off the ball or you're just losing it, that's more of a personal problem than the player. So I think it's more than just tactical for Odegaard, to be honest. Boy says, so are people going to stop slating Odegaard, seeing that he's tasked with doing this more nebulous duo H job? No, they're not. They're not, but this is the first time that it was really obvious. I think people wanted ESR and Kai or Vieira to play in these positions, and they saw that even they did not really have the level of game that I think people are expecting from a number 10/number 8, where you're constantly on the ball and you're creating. That is a tactical situation for me. But no, people are not going to take that into consideration because ESR, like, because Odegaard just needs to step up. So, I learned a lot today. I learned a lot today. I really did. I did. I felt like I learned a lot today without the heavy emotion from having to play against City or Chelsea or Sevilla. It was much easier to see what Arteta is asking the team to do against these deep blocks. And why is it that our number 8s are not doing more? I think it's because they're not asked to do as much. And we're putting a lot of responsibility on Declan Rice to do more and Zinchenko to do more and Martinelli and Saka to be our chief creators. I don't love it, but it worked today. I have so many concerns long term about Zinchenko being so heavily relied upon in build-up and progression. He's a fantastic player, but today he was making runs into the box. He was overlapping. He was in between the lines. He was to the left back. He was the DM. He was doing a lot of work that could probably be spread across 3 or 4 players. So today it worked because Sheffield are crap. Let's be real. We had a great game and Zinchenko was great. But I just wonder if we could just spread the roles out just a little bit. 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 A little bit. Chosen One says, Jess, what do you think of Saka floating over to the left here and there? That link up looked really good. I don't think we do it enough. I think we do it sometimes where you see Saka go over to the other side, Martinelli pop up on the right. I don't think we do it enough, but I also think it's because you have to be playing against certain level of opposition. I think for Arteta to feel comfortable for our players to switch sides. You're not going to do that in games where you're under a lot more pressure. But today we were under no threat whatsoever, so you could do it. But I think idealistically, like if you have ESR on the pitch, you want Saka near him. And so having them next to each other, connecting on either side, I think worked. But we don't see it enough. I don't think our 8s swap enough and our 4s don't swap enough. But I understand why. It's because we're such a off the ball structured side that if you keep switching positions, you'll lose where you're supposed to be and things like that. But today it looked good. It looked good. Like, this was the best that we've looked against a deep block this season. And we played against maybe 3 or 4 this season already. And so that's a good sign. To me, that's a good sign. Getting Rice in there next to Zinchenko, that works. We know it works. And Saka and Martinelli on the pitch together, we know that works. I don't know. We haven't really had Saka and Martinelli together very often this season. So it worked. It worked. Aman said another Raya clean sheet. I'm just happy that we're not talking about the goalkeeper. It was getting a little the most. It's like we don't need to be talking about that anymore. But I'm happy, that he got a clean sheet. He wasn't tested at all. Zahid says, but low block space to create isn't in the middle though. Jess, it's out wide and deep. Fair enough. Like, maybe it's just a tactical thing that I don't understand, but I feel like in general, our number 8s, no matter if it's deep block or not, don't necessarily do enough of the creative stuff. I think Zinchenko, no matter if it's a deep block or not, is doing a lot of the ball dominant stuff. And if he's not involved in the game, we really struggle to create anything, to progress the ball, and to really knit together that connection between Zinchenko, Odegaard, Saka, like to get that going and to unlock the left-hand side. So I understand that they wanted us to go out to the wings. I get that. There was a lot more space on the wings than it was central. And maybe that was just the game plan. And for Kai Havertz and ESR to just exist. But I find that to be the case all the time, where this season our 8s are not tasked with enough of the creation role. But fair enough. I think this is what Arteta wants, and it worked. So maybe I'm just asking for something that I shouldn't be asking for. But I think we played well today. And I think we made progress today by being able to rotate our team quite a bit and still look like ourselves and like not, we didn't even blink an eye. Like, I love that for us. I do. Maddie says, trophy yellow, trophy smiling. So I don't know what that is. I can't read your name. Says, what will be today's score if Jesus was playing? That's a really good question. That's a really good question. Before we actually get into the player ratings, what do you guys think? Do you think Jesus would have scored those goals? This is always the conversation that we have is, Jesus played so well against Sevilla, and we were just talking about how great he is, right? Now, Eddie pops up with a performance like that. Do you think Jesus does that or no? Or do you think he does something different? Do you think him being able to come a little bit deeper would have helped us out? I think both options have their pros and cons, and we know what they are. We know what Eddie's pros and cons are, and we know what Jesus's pros and cons are. I think we still win that game by 3 clear goals, whether Jesus is in there or not. But does Jesus get a hat trick? Ciao. I don't know if he Hugo says, I don't think he scores the third. That goal that Eddie scores is beautiful. It is gorgeous. The first one and the second one, and the third one were like, those are like goals that if anybody else does those, they're talking about it for weeks. They just are. If any other striker is scoring the first or the third goal, they're talking about it for days. But Gabriel Jesus, the goal that he scored against Sevilla, does Eddie score that one? And again, that's in Europe. Maybe Arteta's on to something. Eddie is maybe he's better in the Premier League, because he has 5 goals in the Premier League and he's starting most of the Premier League games. But Jesus is fantastic in European competitions. When he's in, or what I think Tim Stillman called them, continental competitions, because obviously when you're in Brazil, you're not playing in Europe, but he scores much more when he's not playing in the Premier League. So maybe Arteta thought about that and was like, I'm going to give Jesus Champions League and I'm going to give Eddie the Premier League. I don't know. Maybe Arteta knew about that. That is just I love these types of conversations. You guys know I'm into it, because I said the other day that I don't think we have our striker situation is not solved with either one of them. We need something else there, and maybe somebody that can do consistently what Eddie does every once in a while will offset what we don't get from Gabriel Jesus. I think that's kind of where we're at, Nuances of Fate says Sevilla goal, Arsenal fans have amnesia, I swear. Ivy says Eddie scored the third goal and said, this is my home. He ain't leaving in January, y'all. He's not leaving. He's not leaving, you guys. DJ Polar said, Eddie said, I'm a lay, the smackdown on the ball, barely any movement, top bins. Let's start off with Eddie, actually. Let me know if you guys like the new setup. I worked kind of hard on it. So there you go. We'll start off with Eddie. So you guys know how player ratings works. There's 400 of you guys in here. Make sure you guys are smashing the likes and subscribing to the channel, and also letting me know what your rating is out of 10. Player ratings, it's just so obvious. And then also when you guys give your ratings, I want to pull up your comments. So if you guys want to actually give a reason why, then I'm totally into that. So but what do you give Eddie other than a 10? What do you give Eddie other than 10? I just don't see any way to give him anything other than a 10. I think he totally deserves that. And again, like I said, despite me, I'm not going to change my opinion on him, but it's not really a day for that. It's not really a day for, does this change your overall opinion on Eddie? We all know the truth with Eddie, right? So it's not a day for that. Today is a day to celebrate a player that's gotten a hat trick in the Premier League. That is that's big. Not a lot of players get hat tricks. Remember, y'all were kissing Evan Ferguson's behind because he got that hat trick at the beginning of the season, y'all. He hasn't done anything since then. Okay? So Eddie deserves that same level, I think, of gas just for this performance, just for today. And so for me, he gets a 10, obviously. And he allows us to, get the substitutions in to relax a little bit more. I don't think we were stressed out, but from a fan's perspective, he allowed us to relax. And the first goal is just great play. If anybody else does that, that is like goal of the week. You get a ball in a very congested area, take that really nice touch, and slotted into the back of the net. That is fantastic center forward play. You know, that was excellent. That might be my favorite goal of the three. The second one was off of a corner, still fantastic, by the way, roof of the net. But out of the first and the third goal, I think the first one is my favorite just because of the speed that he had to get his feet right, the touch, and the finish. I loved it. The third goal, it was fantastic. Eddie gets a 10 for me. I don't know how you get how you give him anything less. Martin N says 11, 10 points for the hat trick and 1 point or bonus point for being selfless and giving the penalty to Fabio. Exactly. That's really nice. And I wonder if Fabio did have the baby or he's about to have the baby because he put the ball underneath his shirt. I don't know. Maybe I'm reading into something. BroPro says Eddie has the fundamentals of a striker that people underrate. Irvin says that cross from Rice, though, Eddie is a 10. I agree. Nostradamus says 9.5 out of 10. We was just chatting. We want 4. Chanting. We want 4. Chosen One says 10. Hat trick hero. Hope he stays at Arsenal. Like you said, he could definitely bag 15 to 18 goals a season if for more mid-table team in the Premier League. And those players are very underappreciated. DJ, oh no, I saw it. DJ says, if Eddie bags 15 plus goals in the Prem this year, what conversations are we having? Let's see him do it first. I think he has 5 already a quarter of the season is gone, and Jesus is going to be out for probably another month. Maybe, I'm just saying, because hamstrings, you usually keep you out for 3 to 4 weeks. So Eddie has the chance to maybe get to 6 or 7, and then you're halfway there before the half of the year, or half of the season. So let's see if he gets to 10 by halfway through the season. We're having very funny conversations, but right now we can hold our horses just a little bit. But that's an interesting conversation to have. He's 24 now, so either he's going to become a fantastic striker or he's going to be not. Do you see what I'm saying? I feel like at 24, you're really going to understand what the level of this player is. He's no longer a young player. He's getting a little bit more playing time. He's having a little bit more responsibility. So either we'll find that Eddie is a lot better than we thought he was, and he really goes up to the next level after being called up to England and things like that too, or he ends up being a mid-table striker. I think this is the season where we'll really find that out. If you're still trying to decide whether or not you think he's good enough or not. Dale says 10. He doesn't score the first goal. I could see 0-0 at half. Yeah, he helps us break through that, and that's individual quality, I think, as well. It's not a tap in, that goal at 0-0. It's not a tap in. It's not lucky goal or anything like that. That took skill that if that was anybody else, we'd be wanting that player in our team. So he deserves a lot of credit for that at 0-0 when it's still a little bit are we going to break through or not? I think he deserves a lot of credit for that. And Kasi says Eddie needs to stay consistent. That is the challenge. I agree with you. Onan says I was very impressed with Mohamed El Neni's performance when he came on. Ciao. I didn't really see it that much. I had already started working on the stream, so y'all gonna have to tell me about it. Here to There says, agreed, Jess. Let's see what Eddie does at St. James's Park. Well done today, but much to improve still. Exactly. I don't think we have to go crazy right now. Nothing, it's just please give him credit for what he's done because it's hard to get a hat trick in the Premier League. It doesn't happen very often. So when it does, you just have to say, you know what, fair play. Next, let's go to the back. Raya, let's get this one over with because I think this one is going to be a quick one. Not really tested at all. I don't think Sheffield had a shot on goal. Didn't try anything spectacular in possession. Had one really nice, I think, ball to Martinelli where he's basically in on goal and him and Saka kind of bumble it at the end. But all things considered, I think I'm going to give Raya a 7. You weren't tested enough for me to give you anything higher than that, but you didn't do anything stupid. So we don't have to have a goalkeeper conversation because, child, I am tired of having that conversation. So good. Let's see. Hugo says 8. Nostradamus says Raya 10. 7 out of 10. DJ Polar says 7 out of 10. Distribution alone. Kasi says Raya 6. Chosen One says 7. Looked very composed. Good distribution. Solid game for Raya. Kev says, why is Havertz not on the poll, please? Because Kai Havertz to me just did not have that great of a game. But if you guys can give me a reason why he deserves to be on the man of the match poll, please give me one, because I just felt like the game passed Kai Havertz by. Maybe I don't know. Saliba, what a player, what a guy. Anything that Sheffield wanted to do was just basically destroyed by Saliba just being the player that he is. I know that it's Sheffield, so it's not that big of a deal. But when you think about the range of Saliba to be able to shut down Holland the way that he did, and also be able to do what he did today, which is just not encourage the opposition at all, shut them down. He made the right decisions every single time. Instead of passing it back sometimes to Raya under pressure, he would turn himself. Sometimes he would choose to pass back to Raya. He just makes it look easy. So I know he wasn't being tested, but the level of consistency that we're seeing from William Saliba, I think, is the reason why everybody rates him so highly. No matter what kind of game it is, right now we're getting 8 out of 10s at the very least. That's what you need. He completely discourages the opposition from getting involved. They were completely shut down, and we've seen Sheffield give a difficult time to Tottenham, to Man United, and I think they played another one of our top 6 rivals and got a 2-1. There was a 2-1 loss. So, Saliba is a big part of that. Having a player back there like that just says, you know what? Do you really want to try to do anything today? It's a big deal to me, because I think defenders in the past for Arsenal have just been weak and have allowed that one little mistake, and then all of a sudden, boom, they're on us, So Saliba for me, I'm gonna give him an 8. I know he wasn't really tested, but he was on the ball a lot. He was dictating tempo at the base of midfield quite a bit. And anything that they tried to do was just completely snuffed out, which I love. Um, Dale says 2-1 versus Manchester City. Exactly. So it's hard to give him a high score. I get that. But look. um 7, but that pic looks weirdly edited. Okay, Zahid. Can we talk about this picture? Because every time I use it, I'm like, this is not Saliba. This is not Saliba. This is not Saliba. I don't know who this is, but it's not William. It's not. Look at the body. Look at the neck. That is Saliba's head on somebody else's body. Who is this man? Who's this? Look at the hands. Look at this. Yeah, it's very strange. It's not a good picture, but I use it anyway. Ivy says, I like the way Salabiste says, carries the ball and stays out of danger. We need him fit till the season, till the end of the season. 9. It's important. Ian says the only game Saliba had a bad game was against Chelsea. I don't even know if he had a bad game against Chelsea. I'll be really honest with you. I think our center backs were fine. I think our fullbacks are where we lost the game, and Saliba was unlucky. There's nothing you can do for the handball penalty, but fair enough. Hugo says that's El Neni's body. It has to be. Drew says only been watching Euro football for like 10 years, but Saliba is the best defender I've seen. Let's see. Saliba says, Kevy says, Saliba pre-trim. Something was going on with this picture. It's real bad, but we don't have to spend too much time on this one because it's becoming just consistent every single week for him. White, another good game from him. Again, 7 out of 8. 7 out of 8 almost every single game. Fitness level is really good. Had a really good shot that I was hoping went in the back of the net. I thought he wasn't tested, but it's just a Ben game. Like, he gives you 7 out of 10 every single week. So I'm going to give him a 7. I thought he had less of a responsibility on the ball than Saliba. That's why I'm giving Saliba a little bit more, because obviously he's sitting at the base of midfield, dictating play and dictating tempo. I thought that was very clear. But Ben had a good game, and nothing really to write home about, but still very consistent from a player that I still don't think we give him enough flowers, to be honest. All right, so we're gonna fly through some of these, so we can make sure that we get to the ones that we really want to talk about. So sorry if we don't speak about Ben for too long, but there wasn't that much to talk about. Let's go to Kiwi. my guy, my player, my center back, my Polish prince. So this guy deserves more playing time. Um, but he's not going to get it because we have really good center backs and we have Tomiyasu and Zinchenko. So I don't necessarily feel like Arteta's doing him dirty or anything like that. When you think about the players that we have playing in the positions that he plays, it's hard to justify him playing over Gabriel, playing over Zinchenko or Tommy, right? But you have to figure out a time to give him safe minutes where he can build up his confidence. Because I do think Kiwior has struggled a little bit with his confidence. He was playing at left back, learning a role that, at Arsenal is a very hard role to play. Ben said it, as like a fullback for Arteta, you have to be a defender, a midfielder, a winger, and a number 10. And so I thought Kiwior struggled a little bit to learn that role, but we know he's a center back by trade. And one thing that I love about Kiwior is his confidence and like his confidence on the ball. You can tell a player by the way that they trap the ball, by the way that they have their body set up when they're about to receive the ball, whether or not they're comfortable on it or not, for me. And he instills confidence in me that like somebody like Rob Holding did not. Rob Holding was not somebody that inspired confidence on the ball. But Kiwior, when you watch him receive the ball, how he carries it, how he whips balls into players, how he passes with intention, that is a ball playing center back. And if we choose to use him more, we'll get to see more of his passing range. I thought he put some nice little clip balls in behind to not the right players. Like he put one into Zinchenko that if that's like a quick, strong, fast striker, they get on the back. They get on that. So Kiwior I thought was good. And again, he wasn't. It's not like Gabriel was dropped. We just found a good time to give Kiwior minutes, right? So I'm going to give him a 7.5. I thought, for a player that hasn't played very often, I thought he made a good account of himself. Let's see. Tawanda says Kiwior was decent. His passing is so assured. Zahid says, how dare you insult Holdinho? Jess, though I agree with you. BroPro says Kiwi deserves to start games. He's so good. It's hard because there's players that we feel like deserve more playing time. But when you look at the players that they're playing behind, it's really difficult to say, yeah, Kiwior should be starting over Gabriel, or Kiwior should be starting over Tommy at left back or Zinchenko. So he's Kiwi, and I just need him to get the confidence up because that's what he needs. Kasi says Kiwi is a really good player. Anytime he plays, I am impressed. He deserves more game time. Martin says 8.3 didn't feel Gabriel's absence at all. Omniconcept says Kiwior 6. Ronnie says Gabriel is a monster, big Gabby. Philip says want to see Kiwior play again against West Ham. That will be the big test, I think. Did Arteta feel like this was good enough to start Kiwior against West Ham? Because I still feel like we need somewhat of a rotated lineup against West Ham. Obviously, we'll get into all of that. We have plenty of time to really get into the West Ham game, and how we want to set up for that with Newcastle on the horizon. But, if Arteta, I think this is the type of game, West Ham, where you could give somebody like Kiwior that next little bit of assurance, like that was such a good performance that I'm willing to play you again. And I'm also looking at somebody like ESR, somebody that I thought had a good game, despite not really being able to take hold of it the way that we wanted to. He really grew into it. So is it not an opportunity to bring some of our starters back in, like bring Odegaard back in, let's say, and still play ESR, still play him and keep Kiwior on, still play him. I think Arteta will show whether or not he really trusts these players in the next game, because he treated this like a cup game. So we'll see. Hugo says 8. Here to there says Kiwior Tommy, center back, Kiwior left back versus West Ham, rest Saliba, his toe injury for Newcastle. And Philip says, I want to see this guy play again against West Ham. I think I already read that one. Let's see. Yeah, so it's one of those where I think we'll really see whether or not Arteta rated these performances or took any stock in them. If some of these players get an opportunity to start again against West Ham. It's the Carabao Cup, but it's a much more difficult game. How much does Arteta rate these performances? I rated this performance enough to feel confident in Kiwior starting against West Ham, but does Arteta That's the big question. Zinchenko everywhere. These are the types of games that Zinchenko should be playing for Arsenal. We've been talking about it on the channel a lot. Do not set up Zinchenko for failure. Do not play him against Newcastle. These are the games that Zinchenko really thrives for us, where he's getting a lot of touches, where we're sitting at the halfway line, we're really dominant in possession. He doesn't have to go up against one of the trickier wingers in the league, and he can just play in midfield, basically. That's where he thrives. Deep in midfield, helping us progress up the pitch. He probably had the most touches. Like, him and Saliba probably had the most touches, maybe Declan Rice as well. He was so involved in everything that we were doing. He had an excellent game, I thought. But this is how you get the best out of Zinchenko, and don't expose him to the elements. Don't play him in games where it doesn't suit him. Just don't. He just was excellent today, but it's not surprising. I'm not shocked that Zinchenko was good today. He should not play 3 games a week because his fitness doesn't allow him to. And he should not be tasked against the better sides, especially away from home. Definitely not in Europe either. For me, Zinchenko gets, let's see. I think I'll give him like, it's tough because I gave Saliba an 8. Because I feel like I want to give Zinchenko an 8 as well. And I think I will. An 8. But I'm not surprised. He's going against Burnley, against these sides. He's going to be fantastic. He gives us the ability to break those teams down, I think a little bit better. So well played to him. But it's up to the manager to put players in positions where they thrive. And this is where Zinchenko thrives for me. Let's see. Omniconcept says Zinchenko played well, 7.5. BS Born Scampia. BS Born and Scampia says Eddie Super, Eddie ESR X Calciatore Omra. Oh my gosh, Havertz, non-FA goal. I don't know what this says. I'm so sorry, honey. Like, I really am. I tried. Hugo says Zinni 8.5. Duke says, Jess, you're amazing. Thank you for all you do. Really love following your channel. Come on, you Gunners. Gaining on the goal difference. Great to see Emil start. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I do this for you guys. Tawanda says Zinchenko was a beast, second to the man of the match, instrumental. Ronnie says Zinchenko is good. I give him an 8. So yeah, it's one of those. So there are games like this. We're gonna play maybe like, let's say, home and away, probably, let's say 10 of these games a season, maybe more. Where you're gonna need Zinchenko in the team, right? And so that's not a big deal for me, like, at all, to only really use Zinchenko in those 10, 12 games, where we're gonna need, like, most teams are gonna sit back on us, So it's fine to use him in those games. And I understand the whole, like, oh, well, let's remember who these teams are. Yeah, but you still have to play them. And some of our rivals have struggled with these teams because you have to break down a low block. So just because it's Sheffield doesn't mean that the performance is any less impressive, because you still have to deal with the elements that are there. And so I'm not saying Zinchenko should just come straight back in against West Ham, because he'll be playing up against Bowen, or Newcastle playing up against Almiron. Those are games where I feel like they suit Tommy a little bit better. But there are games where if we play Tommy for the full 90, you're going to want Zinchenko in there because we're not going to be able to break down that block. So it's about horses for courses. Sheffield United is a difficult game when you can't break down a deep block, So yeah, I was very happy with the performance. But, like, I've always felt like he should just play in these games, it's just, to me, that simple. Let's get stuck into midfield a bit. I'm looking for him, but I'm blind as a bat. Please tell me it's up here. Is that him? No, it's not. Is he missing? Y'all. He's not even on here. Give me a second, you guys. I did all that work yesterday, and I'm missing someone. You guys know who I'm missing. Talks amongst yourselves. Class. Give me a second. I cannot see. I tried. There it is. I got it. I was like, I know I did it because I did it today. Okay, so who cares? All right, back to normal programming, y'all. How good is this player? How good is Declan Rice? Let's be for real. Let's talk about it. Your DM should not be scoring all these goals and getting assists like this. You know, he's either scoring goals or setting up goals or whatever. And again, like I said with Eddie's first goal, that's a goal that really alleviates a lot of pressure for us because we're struggling. I wouldn't say struggling, but we're trying to pick the lock and we're a little bit unsuccessful at that stage. And Declan Rice comes up with a pass that Eddie takes brilliantly and we open up the scoring. He's also tasked with doing quite a bit of defensive work, not defensive work, but just making sure that he stops any sort of Sheffield attack. And I thought him and Saliba and Kiwior were really good in that respect, where anytime they try to hit it over the top, anytime they try to put it into a space where it's a little bit uncertain, they cleaned it up. So Declan Rice was doing that job. He was also our deep line playmaker. He had some really nice passes in that regard, and he helped us open up the scoring with a fantastic assist to Eddie Nketiah. This is not the type of player that I could have even dreamed of in terms of who we're buying. I I think I underestimated how good he was going to be, and this is just early days for him for us. Like he's going to continue to get better. My only thing is that I would like for his role not to be so like I don't want him to become one of our players that's doing 3 or 4 roles every single game because I don't want him to break down. But in terms of the impact, the end product we're getting from him, the consistency, just the vibe, like he just gives us a level of certainty every single game. This player is just so good. I'm going to give him an 8.5. He would get an 8 just like everybody else that we spoke about in Zinchenko and Saliba. But I gave him the extra half point for the assist because it really helped us like alleviate a little bit of that pressure. But that is a fantastic individual. And it doesn't really matter like who we're playing against, whether it's Chelsea, whether it's Man City, or whether it's Sheffield. 8 out of 10 every single game. I've been impressed every single time I've watched him play. Here to there says 8 for Declan, solid, and a nice assist for Eddie's first. Chosen One says best young DM in the world. We will be there. Chris Daddy says, I think we'll always pre-rate Rice before the game even plays. Just always give him a 10 out of 10 in advance. Martin N says 8. Tawanda says Rice has world-class potential. I agree with you. I think he has world-class potential like a lot of our players. Not a lot, but a handful on one hand, I think have world-class potential. And they're starting to show it because they're consistent no matter when they're playing. He's just a fantastic player. Tharaka says 11 out of 10 for Rice. Hugo says 9.5. Chosen One says 9 for Rice Baby. He's just so good. Ronnie says, Rice, man, no words. Dale says 8. It's funny. I still hear rivals say that they just don't get it. The thing about Rice is that as soon as we signed him, I knew he'd become underrated by our rivals because this is not the type of player that Arsenal would typically go out and get. He's not a player that we would ever get our hands on, not in the Emirates era. He's such a Sir Alex Ferguson signing. It's unreal. We never went for players like this in the past. We always went for somebody that, had the technical ability, but didn't quite have the off the ball stuff, didn't really have the presence, didn't really have the endeavor, didn't really have the full package. And so what Declan Rice maybe lacks in what, eye test merchants really like that moves them, he really makes up for it in the things that really matter in football: presence, performance, showing up when it matters, getting big goals and assists when it matters, consistency, availability. He makes up for it in all of those. So if you don't rate how he looks on the ball, get over that because he makes up for it in so many other ways. Like he's just not the type of player that Arsenal fans I think are used to watching because we've always kind of preferred a more like aesthetically pleasing player that usually doesn't have any of the other shit that we really need. This is the perfect player for us in the stage that we're at. He needs to be complemented by somebody in midfield that can do what Zinchenko is doing. Like I think if you could put somebody with a little bit more defensive ability that has the ability that Zinchenko has on the ball next to Rice, that's his perfect partner at the base of our midfield. That's what he needs. He needs a good partner next to him, but the guy is sensational. He just really is. 11 says, we robbed West Ham. Chris says, Deck is not a flair player. Give me solid and reliable and technically sound over flair any day in this position. I agree. Here to There says, Declan is just a savage competitor, a pure winner, something that we definitely needed. Hugo says, Spanish commentators on Days In were praising every movement he made, felt proud. I love it. And so, yeah, does anybody know what's going on in the Classico? Is it over? Nobody's really talking about it. Is it done? I need to check. Because I need to figure out if I'm about to rewatch this game or not. Full time 2-1 Real Madrid. Why didn't y'all tell me Jude Bellingham did that? Why didn't y'all tell me? I'm rewatching. Y'all didn't even tell me. Oh my goodness. Yeah, I'm definitely rewatching that. And at Camp Nou? Okay, yeah, hell yeah. I'm on it. Let's see. Femi replied to me. Let's see what he said. So I told Femi that you got to come on and collect, man. Remember I was telling you guys at the beginning of the show that I wanted Femi to come on and collect because he's been advocating for NKETIAH for forever and really getting absolutely annihilated on socials for backing the guy. He said, just tell me when. So we're definitely going to have Femi on the show soon so that he can collect his flowers for backing Eddie, not as a fantastic player, but as a decent number 2, which I love. I am 100% watching that game again. Nocturnal says, said it. You never listen to me. I listen to you all the time, Gabs. Also, my notification just popped up. Make sure you go eat something, girl. I got you, girl. Okay, so moving on. Who do we want to go to next? Emil. Let's go with Emil next. I thought he really grew into it, to be honest. I was disappointed in the first half, not because of him, but I was more disappointed. No, I wasn't disappointed in him. I was disappointed in how he wasn't getting involved. And I know that it was tactical because nobody goes off script in Mikel Arteta's team. It doesn't happen. He has so much control, and you do not play if you don't do what the manager is asking you to do. So Emil Smith-Rowe on his first start since like 2022 is not going off script. So he's not sitting on that line, not coming in between the lines because Arteta, because he doesn't want to. It's because Arteta is telling him not to do that. And so I wanted to see Emil get off that line and really get in between the lines and make things happen because we know that's when he's his best. But I did think in the second half he really grew into it. He got an assist. He connected well with Saka when Saka would move to the different sides. Like he did some good interventions off the ball. I thought he was reliable off of the ball, which is, I think, the biggest concern. If I'm Mikel Arteta and I have one concern about Emil, it's not, besides his fitness levels, which I'm sure will be fine from here on out, it's not about what he does on the ball. It's about what he does off of it. And I thought he did a really good job. I know it's Sheffield, but still getting back, winning the ball back, not getting caught, all those types of things. And I think Arteta does probably ask players to be a little bit more safe when they're coming back into the team and then grow into it. He was really good today. I thought he was really good today, and he would be disappointed not to get a goal, but he got an assist and he made things happen. He slipped in at the wrong moment to score that one goal, but I thought Emil grew into it, so I'm going to give him a 7.5. Like, there's really not much I could say that I feel like was on his, it's not so much about what he chose to do. He did the best with what he was being asked to do. And I think that that's important to take into consideration. Nocturnal says, Chris, wreak havoc in here while I'm gone. Martin says 8 for ESR. Nostradamus says, I'll take Bellingham's brother Joe. Chris says, I saw a question today that asked if Arsenal took captaincy away from Odegaard next season and gave it to Rice, how would Arsenal fans feel about it? What are your thoughts? I would be devastated. But it's something that I feel like the moment that we signed Declan Rice, it's not about if, it's about when. I think that Odegaard has done it like a very good job captaining the side in his own way. But the Arsenal captaincy is it's a very difficult job. We saw that it has crumbled many a player in the Emirates era that hasn't been able to stand up to it. the last really good captain that we had, I thought, was Patrick Vieira, that had everything. We've had captains in the past that have been good ball players that step up with what they do on the pitch and stuff like that, but you just need some, like Tony Adams, Patrick Vieira, Cesc. Like, we definitely, Cesc is good, but he didn't have the same thing that Vieira has. It's a thing. It's so hard to put your finger on. And I'm not sure that Odegaard has that. He has the working 100% commitment, doing what the managers ask him to do, coach on the pitch. He has all that, but there's an it that he's missing that Declan Rice has. So the moment we signed Declan Rice, it was not if, it was when. And if it happens next season, then that's just what happens. I'll be devastated because I don't want it to like hurt him or anything like that. But what's best for Arsenal is more important than what's best for me loving Odegaard to death. And maybe if he doesn't have the captaincy on his neck, then he can just focus on doing his job. So I don't know. I'm okay with it. I'd be okay with it. I'd be devastated because I love him. I do. I love him, but we need the best possible captain for Arsenal. That's it. So yeah. Charlie says, just devastated. Deep down in your heart, you want Rice to be the captain. I already said what I have to say about it. Like, people will invalidate my feelings, but when your favorite player is the captain and you watched him like help carry your side to a certain like position, you are going to feel some type of way if he's stripped of the captaincy. You are, like, but equally, I want the right captain, the best captain for Arsenal. So of course I'm going to be devastated. Like, it's Odegaard. He's my favorite player. Like, come on. Philip says, I always felt the captain should be further back in the pitch. Very, very good point. Hugo says it's presence and aura. I love that. So yeah, I'm just one of those. Like, I'm gonna feel it, but equally, I need the captain to be the right person. If it's not Odegaard, then it needs to be someone else. And it's looking like Rice, Trini says you hit the nail on the head, Jess. Arteta's system requires discipline as opposed to instinct or creativity. ESR will not thrive. So ESR for me gets a 7.5. Good showing. It'll be interesting to see if this showing is good enough for him to maintain his position against West Ham, which I feel like it should. I think we can go into a game against West Ham potentially with Rice and 2 8s. You guys can let me know if you feel like we need a double 6 in that game. But if we do end up playing with 2 number 10s, if I had to choose today who those 2 players would be against West Ham, it would be Emile Smith-Rowe and Odegaard. That's who I would choose. I think his performance was good enough for me personally. So love that for Emile. Kai, I have to be honest. You guys, somebody tell me that felt like this performance from Kai Havertz was good enough for him to potentially be man of the match. What did I miss? Because I don't think he was terrible. Here's the thing about Kai is, like, I don't think he's ever truly terrible. I think he has moments where the moments don't go for him, or he just doesn't do the right thing in the moment to really get himself over the line. So like that last little chance at the end of the game, I think a confident Kai puts that in the back of the net. So the moments aren't going for him. But when you take the moments out and you think about what he does mostly, is he's just okay. That's how I felt the entire time. I'm not underwhelmed. I'm not overwhelmed. I'm whelmed, And so I expected more. I wanted more. Just a little bit more of him imposing himself, but maybe it's a little bit of what we spoke about. The 8s are not asked to do the creativity. They're asked to kind of like do the dirty work. I don't know. But I really wanted to see more. And again, if I had to choose my 8s, if I'm doing 2 8s against West Ham, it's going to be Emile and Kai, not Emile and Odegaard. Kai would have to sit out for me. That's, like, if anybody can tell me what he did, what did he do? What did he do? And again, maybe I need to rewatch, but to consistently have to ask me to rewatch this player is he's not really doing it, but I need to talk you into an explanation of why he's not doing it. So he wasn't awful. He wasn't awful, but for me, he wasn't as good as Emile Smith-Rowe. I thought he was just a little bit lower, but not low enough to be like, oh my God, that was a terrible performance. So you're getting a 7 for me. That's for sure. Nostradamus says Kai deserves an 8 out of 10. Havertz performances this season, but reality 5 out of 10. Ipoedo says if you expected more from Kai and he didn't reach that, then you're underwhelmed. Maybe, but I'm more just whelmed. Like it's kind of I wanted more, I expected more, but am I surprised at the performance that I've gotten? Not really, because that's what I've been seeing. So I'm whelmed. Like that's how I feel. Elliot Roberts says Havertz 6, what's the point? Name says got to find a solution for pollution, poorly titled song. I don't know what that means. Salvatore says Trini Gunner, but inconsistent. Odegaard will fit delusional. Um, Let's see. Trini says, one of the most profound football statements I've heard is from Klopp. My high press will create more chances than any number 10. Arteta has similar high press mentality. ESR Fabio will not fit. And that's like going to Salvatore's point, who's pretending as though Odegaard is not one of our best pressers is not only is disingenuous, but if you truly do believe that, I guarantee you've been watching Arsenal over the last 2 seasons with a blindfold over your eyes. If we start talking about why people get chosen based off of things that are more off the ball than on the ball, it makes more sense why Eddie's in the team, why Kai's in the team, why Odegaard's in the team, things like that, because they are better off the ball than Trossard, Reese, ESR, and Fabio. They're better off the ball. So if Arteta is the type of manager, now this is not saying it's right or wrong. This is an explanation that I feel like we never really think about is, does Arteta value what we do off the ball a little bit more than what we can do on the ball? Because when you look at Fabio, Trossard, Fabio, Trossard, and ESR are all fantastic technical players that give you, like, if you want to feel something and you want the Arsenal back, those are the players that you want in your team. They're going to give you the flair, the tricks, the flick. They're going to give you all of that if they're let free. But Kai, Odegaard, who's a little bit more like, I'm going to do what the manager is asking me to do. Eddie, they're the off the ball guys that are going to run, they're going to press, they're not going to be out of position, they're not going to leave you susceptible. So we always have to take that into consideration. And as much as people don't like Odegaard, he's coming back into this team because he's still better than everybody else that can play in that position on and off the ball, despite his poor form. So they had a chance. I think ESR did a lot more with his chance than Kai, but I don't know I don't know. What do you guys think? MD Agency says Havertz played well, to be honest. And again, the other thing that I think people are really disingenuous about is how important your off the ball structure is. Manchester City, they value their off the ball structure. Like, you may only think of them about their goals, but defensively, they don't really give up that much. The best teams do not give up goals and are not susceptible all the time. So pretending like off the ball is not important is ridiculous. It is. It's just a matter of like knitting together the on the ball and off the ball stuff together to get the maximum out of your team. Sir Owen says credit where credit is due, 7 out of 10. Let's see. Trini says Odegaard is a defensive monster. He's a ball winning, attacking midfielder. Yeah. Philip says Odegaard and Jesus are our best pressers out there. So if Arteta really values that, which Philip said, I think it's Philip who said it, right? Philip said it before. I'm just parroting what he said before, is if Arteta values off the ball, the pressing and stuff like that, there are certain players in the team that are going to get a nod over guys that maybe we don't love as much, but it's what the manager wants, So, and Odegaard is going to be a better presser out there. Trossard is not the best off the ball. And there's something that Trossard did at the end of the game that kind of, this is the Kai section, but I just want to put this out there that at the very end of the game, Trossard, somebody else, Vieira, and Raya were playing out from the back a little bit there. And they did the right thing. And then it got to Trossard and he tried to like flick it or something like that. And Arteta went crazy. Those are the types of things that are going to make Trossard not get playing time, I think, under Mikel Arteta. Trossard is a superior player to Eddie Nketiah. There's no conversation. He is. Like, despite the hat trick that Eddie got today, Trossard is the better player. He just is. But if Trossard does that little flick and Arteta's a very careful and pragmatic manager in a lot of ways. He doesn't want the player that he's going to get unpredictability from. He wants the player that's going to be predictable. And so Eddie is more predictable than Trossard. When Trossard played against Fulham, I thought it was harsh to take him out at halftime, but there were a lot of moments where he was trying to flick it in the middle of the pitch and stuff like that. And that's what I love that about Trossard. The Wenger baby and me loves Trossard because he reminds me of Santi. He reminds me of Arshavin. He reminds me of Clef. He reminds me of players that used to get the juices flowing in terms of like creativity and the flair. But Arteta doesn't want that. He wants predictability. And so maybe Kai gives him a level of predictability. Eddie gives him a level of predictability. It's not fun. And you look at the players on the bench and you're like, I'd much rather see Trossard and ESR and Fabio out there doing the business. But Arteta very much so values off the ball. And that's something that we definitely, I think, have to just accept, for sure. So next, let's talk about, we need to talk about Martinelli. Martinelli, I thought, somebody else missing from this. I thought Martinelli had a decent game. I don't think it was like anything to write home about. I thought he was dangerous. If that makes sense. I think he was really dangerous and, he made it shake. They were scared of him. He was trying, and he had one really good shot, I think. It was okay. Like, I thought he had an okay game. It wasn't like Martinelli's greatest, if that makes sense. But he's still incredibly dangerous and really gives us something on the counterattack that not many of our other players give us. So it's understandable why he starts every game and all that kind of stuff. I think he deserves to. So Martinelli for me just gets like a simple like 7. Like I can't really remember all the things that he did. You guys will remember better than me, but I thought he was fine. Martin says 7.8 for Martinelli. Unlucky not to score. Exactly. Kevy Kev says, I heard his end product was missing. John Donut says 7 for Martinelli. MD Agency says Martinelli created opportunities, but no one anticipated the balls. I like that. I like, that sometimes, players do really good things, but nobody's really there to finish them off. So that doesn't mean that they had a poor game. Here to there says Martinelli 7. He was subjected to playing left back most of the game. Arteta literally sacrifices him for Zinchenko's room. Trini Gunnar says Martinelli lacked end product today. So for a player that, in his last four games, two goals. So we probably want him to score maybe one more goal in that to say like, yeah, he's really got his form. But Martinelli, we know he's an end product monster and he's coming back off of injury. So we'll give him some more time. It is what it is. Saka, I think very similar to Martinelli. I thought created some really good opportunities. I think he got an assist himself, created a lot of decent opportunities. But again, Martinelli and Saka are creating for Kai Havertz and ESR, where I think you'd prefer it to be the other way. If am I wrong by saying that? So Martinelli and Saka are they're our best attackers in terms of like finishing and goals, but they're also our most creative. So they're doing so much work. And so watching the game back, I want to really look and see what Saka and Martinelli were able to create for others and how many times they weren't able to like get the final ball or attack the ball properly or make the right runs or whatever. But I thought Saka was solid. He's still, I think, coming back from trying to be fully fit. So good game for him. Nothing to really like, I'll give him a 7.5, I guess, because, he got the extra like assist or whatever. But yeah, good for him. I love it. Here to there says facts, Jess, Martinelli, and Martinelli Shum. I think you've been shown. Trini says Saka went missing for large periods of the game today. He needs to get more involved in the final third. I would love to watch that back and see if I feel like he was completely missing in that game. I think you also had to take in consideration who was right there next to him. I think whoever was next to ESR probably got more shine. Whoever was next to Kai, the light was a lot more dim on that side. Lionide says Saka 6. Abby says 6.5. The thing is like his his level is so high that even games like this, I think he ends up being a little bit poor, like seems a little bit more poor. So whatever. I'll give him a 7.5. People are way lower than me. It is what it is. Like, you know, the thing as well is like in a game where Eddie scores all 3 goals, I'm going to look at who is creating those opportunities for them. I don't know if do we feel like Saka should score a goal every single game? Are we there with Saka where it's like you have to score every single game? Also, he would have had a goal if he would have, taken the penalty. I don't know. Maybe he wasn't on the pitch at that time either. I don't know. It's interesting. I don't know if I feel like Saka has a bad game if he doesn't get a goal. Um, I feel like he's tasked with doing so much, a lot of our progression, creating chances, things like that. And I want to rewatch and see how I felt about Martinelli and Saka without the emotion involved, because knowing that they're trying to create for other players, I think I want to give them a little bit more credit, because it's just like most wingers just wait for the ball to arrive to them so that they can put the ball in the back of the net. They're doing a lot more than that. So, but yeah, maybe he didn't have that good of a game. Maybe maybe I need to give him a lower score, but we won 5-0, so it is what it is. For me, let's go over some substitute performances. I think we have to start with this man here. Who else just smiles when Tommy is on the pitch? I saw a tweet where somebody was like, I just smile and get like really happy when Tomiyasu is there. I don't know what it is about this player, but like I was not up for selling him this summer, not because I have like some, whatever, like affinity towards him or anything like that, but I just genuinely think he's a really good player. And he just is great. Like, I don't know. He gets his first goal today for Arsenal. It was coming. He's in excellent form. I think he's going to start. I know he's going to start against Newcastle. Whether he starts against West Ham or not will be interesting. But he's so versatile. He played off of the right today. He's played off of the left in place of Zinchenko. His cameos have been excellent. I just love Tommy. And he became so much more important the minute that Timber got injured, because he's the only other player that can do Timber things, Zinchenko things at a high level in multiple positions. So for me, Tommy's sub performance, he got a goal off of a set piece. I'm going to give him an 8 because I'm feeling generous, but I don't give a shit. Tommy is my boy, and he just deserves everything. Like we just need to be more patient with him, I think. And hopefully he stays fit. Sam 2 says, man has been a machine. MD Agency says, Tomiyasu is one of the best players in the world in the back line. Ipawedo says, Tommy is very good. He gives his best. Kurt says, Tommy looks like a weeble wobble when he plays tippy but never fails. Nostradamus says, Tommy Basu, first goal for the club. Here to there says 8.5 for Tommy. Richard says, get in, Basu. You can always count on Tommy Gunn. Exactly. Fubumi says, Tommy is relentless when playing, but I feel he should work on his strength. Really? Tommy, for me, is not a player that lacks in strength, to me, but fair enough. MD Agency says 8.5, but we need to keep this man. So yeah, I really enjoyed his performance today, albeit a short one. He got his first goal for the club, and he's just been really consistent. It'd be really interesting to see who Arteta picks for West Ham. I think that could go either way. That could go Zinchenko or that could go Tommy. Playing up against Bowen, that's a difficult proposition. I think he's one of the most informed players right now. I think he has 6 goals in the Premier League. So Bowen is not a bum, so Zinchenko, I think, would have a little bit of a time up against him. But equally, do we need Zinchenko to help us midfield wise? You saw how important he was. So it's not quite a Newcastle game for me where it's like you have to have Tommy, but it might be Tommy. It might be Tommy. I don't know. It might be Tommy. It might be Tommy time. Actually, we'll do you last because you didn't really play that much. You scored the penalty, but who cares? Trossard, I thought, had a good little cameo for himself. Again, like when you want something on the ball, you definitely want Trossard. Like he gives you Arsenal vibes. He gets on the ball, he makes things happen, he keeps it, he's technically sound, can play on both sides, does his best work through the middle. I thought he looked decent. Like nothing to like write home about, nothing like spectacular, but a player that gives us so much quality off of the bench that I just I just love him so much. I really do. And so nothing, that again, that we need to write home about or anything like that, but just like a solid 7 sub performance from Trossi. He'll get his time. Injuries happen, so his time will come, again, to have a run in the team. It's not now, but it'll come. And when it does, um, I'll be there. I will be there. Um, let's see. Um, Mayiwa says it has to be Tommy versus West Ham and Newcastle. Here to there says 7 for Leo. Nostradamus says Vieira is the player who needs to work on his strength. Martin N says, hey, Jess, how can you respect Fabio like that? Fabio's my guy, man. So, yeah, he does matter, but it was pretty much just the penalty for him, wasn't it? Are there any other games going on right now? Oh, Newcastle and Wolves right now. 2-1 Newcastle. Newcastle are doing well. I know they had the little stutter step midweek, but they're doing well for themselves. Omniconcept says Trossard needs to be starting ASAP. In what position? I think that's the hard one. Eddie is going to start when Jesus is not available. I think we should just accept that. And if it's not Eddie, it's probably going to be Kai. So we just need to accept it. Now Martinelli is going to start every single game. So where does Trossard start? And Arteta is very, I think, reluctant to use him in midfield for some reason. So I'm not sure. Naim says 10 for NKETIAH. Cosmo says, I think Trossard is our best crosser. Name Smith says Trossard baddest player at Arsenal. Dale says Neto assist. He's flying. Dale says 7. I thought Trossard was showboating a bit. I loved it. Yeah, Trossard, he's that type of player. He's like when I say like he just reminds me of like an Arsenal player of like the Emirates era, he just does. Like he gives you like he passes the eye test. That's what I'll say. I love Trossard. Let's go for Fabio. I thought put the penalty away really nicely, earned the penalty as well. A dangerous player when he's in and around the box. Kind of fallen away a little bit. I'm not sure if it was an injury that took him out for Tottenham. That's what they said. And then he didn't make the squad against Chelsea. And then he's kind of been on the fringes. I think ESR has kind of maybe jumped over him in the pecking order, which is interesting. I think, remember we said at the beginning of the season, it's one or the other. Maybe it is becoming a little bit of a battle between the two of them. But again, came on, was, bright, did what he needed to do, really good on the penalty. Not really much else I can really say about Fabio Vieira. You guys know I love him. I think he needs more playing time or to be utilized more, but 7.5 for Fabio. New dad, that could probably be it as well, that maybe he wasn't being used as much because his partner was having a baby. I know we knew about Ramsdale, but maybe Fabio wanted to keep it more secretive. Let's see. Mayua says VAR disaster class in the Wolves game, Newcastle with a massively dubious penalty. Martin N says 8.4 didn't miss the target, get the ball in the net and off the field. Congrats on becoming a father. Tawanda says Fabio is good, high quality potential. MD Agency says 7.5 for Vieira. Soon we will see his best version. Omniconcept says I would play Trossard ahead of Saka for a couple of games. Diehard Gunner says Vieira is ahead of ESR. This just personal things, new baby, etc. And Philip says, Jess, is it possible that we're creating wide now because if you lose the ball central areas, you can be countered more easily, potentially. I think Arteta does things to like counteract, like, okay, so where can we be hurt? Let's make sure that we buffer around those areas to make sure. I think what I really, if you guys haven't seen, I know it's like kind of like what's your content. Of course, you want somebody to watch it, but I really do think that like James and I did a really good job of talking about all the different things, like all the different reasons why the attack is not looking the same as it did last season in my last video that I put out yesterday. And that was something that we spoke about, is playing with the handbrake on and Arteta maybe being a little bit damaged off of the back of some of the breakdown defensively on transitions and things like that happened to us at the back end of last season. And maybe we're playing a little bit more carefully and trying to buffer certain areas and create, ways where we can't be hurt more than ways where we can hurt the opposition. if that makes sense. So I thought we broke that down quite a bit. So yeah, Fabio Vieira is somebody that I think needs to be used a little bit more, but we'll see. We'll see. And in terms of like what Philip is saying, creating wide, that could be something that's an effect of maybe feeling like we got done down, like we got hurt, quite a bit on transition through the middle by losing the ball in bad positions. So yeah. Um, and Reese, I don't know what you guys think about his cameo. I didn't think much of it because I wasn't really at that stage. I was just like, Tommy, so I don't know. But I'm just gonna give him I'm gonna give him a 6.5. I don't really know what he did. Um, Another one that I think we could use a little bit more. We've spoken about it quite a bit. And the only player that's not on this, and I feel bad about not having him on here, is El Neni. So you guys will tell me about his cameo because some of you guys are saying that it was really good. What did he do? Like, tell me, what did he do? Because I want to know. But El Neni back in the fold. You know how I feel about El Neni, but he's a busybody. He likes to get in, run around, and make himself a nuisance. And he's a reliable player in terms of like end of the game, keeping it safe. So El Neni is what he is. James says El Neni is better than Jorginho. If that's your opinion, I'll eh, Trini says, didn't El Neni get an assist? Which goal did he get an assist for? Because was it either one of the last two? Was it because Tomiyasu's, I thought it was off of second phase, off of the corner, and Fabio won the penalty, correct? So which goal did he get an assist off of? I would like to know. Muiwa says Reese gave away a few fouls. That's it. Had a day off. Travis says Eddie needs to keep performing like this so we can sell him an upgrade. Muiwa says Big Mo had a good game, kept it tight in the middle, and assisted Tommy. Okay, so he did assist Tommy, so fair enough. Got an assist. Good for him. I'm going to give him, I guess I'll give him, I didn't really see enough of it. I'll give him a 7.5. I'll trust you guys on this one. Good game for him, and it's nice to see him happy and playing again. That's for sure. Arteta, got to give him a 10, I think, today. I was trying to understand why people wanted to give him such a low score for the Sevilla game. We won. I thought he got the starting lineup right. I thought the game plan was perfect. I don't think there's anything that you could look at from Arteta's perspective on the corner that we conceded because really the players need to take responsibility of getting in front of their man. And I thought Jesus's positioning was poor. I thought, the substitutions, like he tried to change the game with the substitutions, didn't really work that great, but we didn't really need to change the game. We just needed to make sure that we didn't give up another goal, right? And so I thought Arteta coached a really good game against Sevilla, but people wanted to give him like a 6 or a 7. Today, he's getting nothing but a 10, you guys. He rotated. The game plan was what it was. The team executed it. We scored 5 goals and we kept a clean sheet. He gets a 10, Arteta. And the referee didn't have to really get involved, so we didn't really have to talk about that, which is great. So yeah, you guys, I really enjoyed that a lot. I enjoyed talking to you guys. I hope you guys like the structure and the graphics. I thought, that looked a lot better than what I was trying to do. So you guys will let me know in the comments after the fact. I really enjoyed this game. And most of all, I enjoyed the progression that Arsenal have made to be able to rotate certain players out and still keep our level quite high. We have a big game coming up against West Ham. Whether you rate the Carabao Cup or not, I want to stay in it for as long as we possibly can. And my thing was, I want to go out to a team that I feel like is better than us if we do go out. And West Ham for me is not better than us. Do I think they're going to go strong in the Declan Rice derby? Absolutely. So it's going to be an interesting game ahead. But in between there, on Monday, we're going to do the post-match on Patreon. So if you guys aren't a patron, you guys can get the link in the description and become a patron. I think it's like $4 a month. And you get previews, you get the post-match show and all that kind of stuff. And Gabby's going to be on the show, I think, unless she flakes on me. But we're going to try to get Femi on as well and like try to mix it up there. But I really did enjoy talking to you guys today. Make sure you guys like the video and subscribe to the channel on your way out. And I will see you guys in the next one. Bye, guys.